Good afternoon. This is Jane Karkada from CII. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this wonderful session that we have today. I specifically would like to thank Mr. Ajay Singham for taking this initiative and, more importantly, for curating and putting together a wonderful session for us this afternoon. We have a lot to look forward to. A little brief on Mr. Ajay Singham, who's kind of leading this for CII here. He's the founder member and the president of the Industrial Flooring Association, besides, of course, being the director of Afcon Techniques Private Limited and Rockland Private Limited. So thank you so much, Mr. Singham, for putting this together for us. We have just concluded the manufacturing summit that we had, which was chaired by Mr. Jamshed Godrej. So this was on the 8th and the first half of today. And under this umbrella that we also are working on this particular conference, which is specifically on the industry of industrial flooring. And we are very excited as CII to have initiated this because this is a very important sector, and we would definitely want to engage and do a lot more in terms of working closely and associating with this particular sector. So with these words, I would like to welcome Mr. Ajay Singham and request him to take this forward, please.
It's a pleasure talking to you once again. Very good afternoon to all the delegates and panelists. I would like to start by thanking CII for inviting us on the manufacturing platform and giving us the opportunity to directly share our thoughts and enlighten the end user industry on the subject of floors. We earlier also had an opportunity to work with CII Mumbai on the flooring conference and exhibition in 2017, which was a grand success. We also did with CII Chennai and Delhi as well. So we had a very good association with CII in the past. We look forward to in the future as well. Industrial flooring is a very platform on which all the business estimates or plans are getting translated. It is on this very platform that all the production happens and which gives you the results that you are targeting. It is also the last in the chain of the project planning and execution. There is an overall ignorance on the subject of flooring right from the end user to designer to contracts. Some of us have been working independently on this to educate the end user, the specifier independently. All the companies have been working independently to educate the specifiers, basically. And then in 2014, we all got together and did the first conference in Pune to do this same education and translating knowledge into the reality. And further on, the events happened in Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi, Indore, many places. And all the stakeholders of the industry, whether it is a flooring company or the machine manufacturers or the construction chemical companies or the designers, all put together, who are the stakeholders of this industry, got together and we formed IFA, Industrial Flooring Association, in 2018. And we had done under this banner one conference in Bangalore last year. And this year we did in February in Indore. It was a regional conference. The format is that all the conferences have taken up subjects right from the basics of design of a floors to engineering, to the material science, to the materials which can be used, the process, the equipment to be used, the defects, the liabilities, and so on and so forth. And it has been covered at length during this mini conferences. And as the technology improves, these subjects are being graded up. And a lot of systems have been upgraded for the Industry 4, which is the next in the line. And we should also be geared up to deliver what the industry demands for this kind of operations. All these conferences and presentations has been with Indian and international speakers. So there is no lag in between the knowledge that we have right now in India and what is being there in the global scenario. So we are bringing all the latest information, knowledge, the technology in India at real time. And that's the agenda In Mumbai event, we also did live demo because a lot of times when we talk, it is really difficult for people to translate that into visuals. So we also did the visuals for them to translate that knowledge and actually see the visuals and understand and remember much better, with much clarity. So in some of the cases, we were able to do this demo, but some cases we weren't able because the facilities were not there. We are hoping that we will be able to do so in future conferences. And taking this line forward, today we are going to talk about fundamentally what is the current systems and practices and how we can improve on the overall structure of this industry to help benefit the end user in the current scene and in the life cycle cost scenario. Because life cycle is terribly missing from the whole equation. So I like to briefly introduce our panelist, Mr. Ruchir Panwar, who is yet to join because he's got stuck in traffic and I think he'll be delayed by 5 or 10 minutes. But I'll just introduce him. He is an architect and he was a principal architect with Stoop. And then he was with Mahindra Sustain for some time as a business head. Then he was director in RSP Designs, and now he's working independently, and he's doing a lot of industrial and warehousing projects. And I believe they were the ones who started the FTWZ project, and he has been involved in those kind of projects. And he carries a lot of knowledge on the whole aspect of the concept of a warehouse or industry and how this could be improved upon. He was CEO STP Limited, which is now a Berger Group company, and he has over 30 years of experience in construction chemicals and paints. Earlier, he was executive director and at various positions in Sika and Apurva, which later merged with Sika. He was also VP at MAPI, and he has worked as salesperson head from Jensen and Nicholson and Shalimar Paints. Singh. He is currently the director and the country head of Somero India. Somero is a company which has brought to the Indian market laser screeds for flooring, very innovative machines. He is a mechanical engineer in the construction and mining sector with over 30 years of experience. Caterpillar in India in 1995 and has worked closely with NHI, World Bank, on road projects, Golden Quadrilateral projects, and other corridors in India, Asia Pacific, Singapore. He also set up SANY India and brought in concrete machinery for Indian market. He's a member of Ministry of Surface Transport Committee for emission norms for construction machinery. And Mr. Ganesh Chaudhary is the director of FMG, Floma Global, a consultancy and EPC flooring company. He is also vice president of West of Indian Concrete Institute. He is also co-chairman of ICI Technical Committee on Industrial Flooring. He is a passionate civil engineer, and he has been instrumental in bringing, not bringing, but starting Bekaert here in India, and from his initial Bekaert to current Bekaert, he has succeeded in bringing the fiber technology into the Indian market. He has done a lot of jointless and seamless floors across North America, Middle East, South Asia, and has pioneered SFRC design and through various tests conducted at IIT Madras, has completed over 12 million square meter of SFRC floors across the globe and has signed MOU with IIT Madras for collaborative research in developing durable industrial floors. Now, I'd like to open the discussion here, and I would like to pose a question on how well is the subject of flooring understood and acted upon in greenfield or brownfield project, planning and engineering, right from the investor to designer to the execution level? Over to the panelist.
So Ajay, I think what we should start, where is the industry today and where we would like the industry to move as we move forward with the economy of the countries. So that can be the starting point for discussion.
Yes, you can start. Are you able to hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can start, I said. You can start.
Okay. So if we look at the industry today, you see, still we are working on the same old methods, looking at the flooring. And one of the major challenge which you are means the industry is facing, as well as we as manufacturer face, that there is very little change which is happening in the Indian industry. And one of the major challenge which we come across with everyone, that customer is the end user. When we say the customer is interested only in the cost, they talk everything on a factory. When they want to put up a warehouse, they talk every aspect of the business, but they don't talk on the floor. Now, in any manufacturing unit or in any warehousing project, floor is the center of activity where 99% of the operations happen, and that is the most neglected area by everybody. And that is a big challenge what we are facing today. And due to that, what is happening, the cost of the floor is going very high in terms of when they look from maintenance point of view. When we look from the future mechanical media which is going to come, for example, the automatic guided vehicles are going to be the demand of the day as we move forward. There is going to be a lot of automation which is going to happen, and it is already happening. But floor is not being given consideration by everybody who is part of the project. The other challenge what we face as joint members of this industry, that okay, today there is no certification which is happening on the floors which people are doing. Design is another aspect where some effort has been put up by various stakeholders, but still we find that on the design side also, B and C category customers, they are totally ignoring. So these are some other challenges in my opinion. So with that, I will leave it the forum to other members.
Sudarshan, Sanjay, I agree to your points. Though the things have changed over a period of last 20, 30 years. And I have seen that when the multinational companies coming in, the kind of floor is done in those countries like European countries or American countries, they would like to follow the same thing. Things have changed and things are getting improved. But here, the applicator who's doing the application, and the main thing is that there are no codes. So basically, as a body, we will have to work onto the codes to make sure that there are some set procedures, standard procedures to be implemented, so that the end customer he get the floor which is specified by the consultant or architect for his intended use. That's my opinion.
Right.
Ruchir, you are the first person to actually be in contact with the end user. So would you like to take it up here as your experience on this? I guess your voice. Ruchir, your voice.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So my experience has always the clients are not absolutely sure of what they want. Needs and wants are totally different. They don't really concentrate on what they really need, but they go by trying to avoid mistakes that have been done in the past and make a list of wants. And it's not properly thought through based on what operations they would have, because most of the times the business models, the operational models are still sketchy. They are not really firmed up, and they don't really know exactly what the end user requirements would be. And therefore, there's always this gray area within which we have to work. And then what happens is typically they expect the consultants, such as architects and engineers, civil engineers who are just generalists, to give them a proper solution which would work first, of course, in the short term, but also in the term. And this we are extremely handicapped as architects. I mean, we have no clue about specialized floorings. Therefore, what we need to do and what we did in the past is got the specialists involved. In fact, we, being a part of a multidisciplinary team, we did the first free trade warehousing zone where nobody really knew what a free trade warehousing zone was all about. They didn't even the promoters have the business plans. And while we were working over a period of 4 or 5 months of design, that's the start in the team. There needed to be specialists who were process consultants. They provide key critical solutions right from the MHE selection to the flooring specs, because the flooring specs actually are governed by the MHE selections. Now, when we realized that, we went backwards all the way, and that's how the whole process and detail was established. And then we got various people involved, including you, Ajay. So we find that the whole process is right now extremely skewed. There is really no guideline on the specialized industrial floors, and the end users don't really know. Most of the time, of course, the end user in the warehousing industry, who the end user is and what his needs would be. And even in special industries, people don't really know, because it's the machinery. By the time they finalize the machinery, by the time they train their personnel and they know exactly what the processes will be, it's a little too late. They're too much in a hurry to start construction. So once the construction is underway, and then you realize somewhere down the line, oh, this thing requires a specialized floor which has these performance criteria, then by the time it becomes a little too late, and then people just want to complete the project. And that's why you have situations of distressed floors and floors which don't really cater to the function required and expected of.
Ganesh? Yeah, what is it?
Hello, Ajay.
Yeah.
What I want to add is, when we expect or when we construct a good floor, what you need is a good material, you need good machine and good know-how. Yeah. If you compare our industry 8 or 10 years back, we did not have a lot of it. But if you compare today, as you rightly said in your inauguration statement, we have everything today. We have good materials available in India, we have good machineries available in India, and we have good knowledge available in India. Yeah. But somehow, even if the end user is spending money, he's not getting value out of it, value out of this our knowledge. We have also not been able to give value to proper end user, because the process followed in the flooring selection process is bit on a rate contract or rate item basis, something like that. So although everything we have, we are not able to harness the capability of we as a industry. This is what I want to add.
Yeah, usually what it is that the end user, when they are giving their application, what they need is from the language of their machine and other things. This needs to be translated, and this needs to be translated into a civil engineering language and further translated into flooring. So this translation, do you believe that this is not this is happening in a proper way, or there needs to be a better way of communication on this?
There needs to be a change. Yeah, there needs to be a change because the a specification of the floor should be driven by performance of the floor. You take the final use of the industry, whether it is loads or whether it is, you take a case of load. Today we say big investors are asking for fight and UDL. Really, fight and UDL never ever exist. It is going to be point load at certain distances, wheel load at certain distances. So it is not getting translated properly. Definitely not. We need some expertise to get into the decision process.
Is the conventional RCC design making this prejudice statement or the thought process?
What is the question?
Is the conventional RCC design which is forming this kind of questions on UDL and the way it is approached? The subject is.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is more of a lack of awareness of how to design a floor, and we are still going on some standard norms. I think it is lack of awareness of how to design floors.
So, what would be your suggestion on the chain of selection process or establishing to get to the good results?
Yeah, we can have some. You want to show slide now, Ajay?
Yeah, it will be a good idea if you can show the chain of.
I made some summarization on processes. We can go through. Yeah. So this is a brief understanding, what is the processes, all these things. Yeah. Saurabh, one at a time. Yeah. So this is the presentation, which giving a general view. Maybe there are some projects or some process which are really doing progressive methods, but this is just summarizing what happens generally in the market. So generally, when an investor goes for an expansion in India, whether it is greenfield or brownfield, he gains his knowledge from foreign visits or his joint venture with MNC, or everybody takes the knowledge from Google, and then he makes a budget. Once he makes a budget, he goes to closest ally to him, which is a general architect or a structural consultant. Yes, Saurabh? Yeah. So based on the needs of this investor, current architect or structural engineer forms the bill of quantity or so-called specs. Yeah. So that there is a document which defines how a project to be done and what are the items to be involved. Yeah. Then this duo, which is investor and an architect, they jointly release the tender, and then a general contractor is hired. Saurabh, next. Yeah. Yeah. A general contractor is hired purely for execution purposes. Yeah. Once the general contractor is hired, all this goes into the flooring. Yeah. Saurabh, can you go to the next? Yeah. Then the flooring contractor is looked at to hire, and lot of times, lot of this, so-called A-grade warehouses, what is called, you see there are rate items, BOQ items, which is defining this machine should be there or this labor should be there. Yeah. Sometimes what happens, although there is a BOQ and specs written, because of it has not followed a technical process of understanding the need and executing, floor cracks. When a floor cracks because of lot of reasons. It can be because of design, it can be because of detailing, it can be because of concrete as a material, it can be because of finishing processes were not right. Yeah. So there are really many reasons. Yeah. Saurabh, next. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So what happens? Yeah. When the floor cracks, investor is not looking at somebody to blame. He's looking at who's the right person who's going to give me now. Yeah. Then he goes to he's just thinking who can give me. So he goes to his friend, which is architect and consultant. Architect and consultant also wants to help investor. Yeah. So he thinks he goes back to his documents. He goes back to his books. He says exactly same BOQ and design was used in earlier project. There I did not had a lot of problems. Yeah, but I would like to help you. I will look into it. Yeah, but there is no confirm answer because he is also puzzled. Yeah, because the same specs and designers work for other projects. Then they go to general contractor. Yeah, general contractor is the smartest in the lot. He says, guys, I have done as per your BOQ and design. I really don't know the reason. I am an executor here. Yeah, as I said, I repeat here, is the smartest man in this value chain. He said, I'm not a brainy guy. You tell me what to do and I'm going to help you. I want to help you. Then all these three people, because the problem is flooring, they go to this flooring guy. Yeah, flooring guy is with his Somero machines or 23 labors or whatever we call it as. Yeah, he says, Saurabh, next. Yeah, he says, guys, all due respect, although I like to help you, I was really told what to do. I was never asked during the tender process what should be done and how it should be done. I was given a bill of quantities material that this is what you have to put, this much hardener you have to put, or blah, 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 blah. How can I be responsible for this? Yeah. Now, in this whole scenario, everybody is trying to save their skin, but investor who is our customer for all of us, although he has spent enough money, we have not been able to give value to him, or he has not got value from all of us. Yeah, I'm pretty sure wherever we are sitting in a value chain, whether we are general contractor or flooring contractor or tech, we do want to give value to our investor. Yeah, this is what is our thought, but we are not able to give. Yeah, next. So this is just a proposal which is a right, which is also done in a lot of European and American continents. Yeah. So what should be the correct process of planning? Yeah. So this all is fine. This is not going to change. Yeah. But if you really want to define what is the kind of floor, you really want to define, you really want to convert your needs to the floor. What we want to do is, rather than architect and engineer directly jumping to BOQ and he transfer these needs of an investor to so-called an expectation that this is the kind of a floor we need. Then as a value chain, we insert one more category here, which is so-called a design and build flooring company or a flooring consultant. Yeah, whose bread and butter is only casting flooring or only doing flooring consultancy. What they will do, they will meet with the architect and they will give him some expectation. Lot of times we see customers come with lot of expectations, but they cannot be fulfilled in that budget. So the flooring consultant's work is to convert these expectations into reality and then defining the performance parameter, how the payments will be done, blah, 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 blah. Then defining on basis of which standard document floor will be done. There are many standard documents available. Either we can refer American Concrete Institute 360, or we can refer Concrete Society TR34, or we can refer Indian Concrete Institute TC09. So this is the job of a flooring consultant. Yeah. Then coming to the last leg, yeah, we hire here a flooring contractor who's not having machines or labor. Yeah, he is really hired for a performance. He's not just having, it is not just a labor contract. He is bound for that performance. So this is the change we need to do as an industry in a planning process. Yeah. If we do the planning process, have you done our job? Actually not, because all of us in the industry, we know, yeah, whoever is doing design and build projects, we know we at least do 10 or 20 changes into design when it is in execution. So what should we do while execution? Yeah. Yes, Saurabh, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Now, because there are sometimes a lot of changes in utilities, machines, blah, 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 blah. Also the time cycle. Saurabh, can you hit again? Yeah. What we should do, we should definitely do a pre-construction meeting again with that flooring consultant or the professional hired by that design and build company, whether it is his own employee or outsider, again to revisit what we decided during the design. Because many a times lot of small changes happen into your machining process, your utilities. Sometimes your machine coming from Germany or machine coming from somewhere gets delayed and you don't have 28 days of time to load. So it is possible to redesign the floor to get loaded on 21 days. Things like this. We need to add this process into the execution thing. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So what is the road ahead? Road ahead should be always a 1 point responsibility of the flooring. If something happens to the flooring, there should be one person responsible. Yeah. Investors should not have a doubt who's going to help me, who has the knowledge or who has the resources. So there should be 1 point responsibility with the design and build flooring company. And the process of the contract should be define the needs, do away from rate contract, and push for performance class. So payment will be done as a performance, not as just doing of actions. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So focus on what is the real need and push for performance. Yeah. Yeah. This is what I wanted to bring it to the audience, that we need, although we have knowledge, we have intention to do a good job. We have good materials and good chemical companies available in India. We have better machines in India. We are not able to give value because there is a lack of right process in the decision making. Yeah. Ajay, thank you. Ajay, we can't hear you.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a nice presentation and very specific and to the point, wherein all the stakeholders and what is the value chain and how we can improve on the whole working. I still have the issue of hearing.
No, it's okay.
So,
It's okay.
what I'd like to dwell further on this is, in order to bring this changes, how would an architectural firm and or a consultant firm, how they should be working on it to bring in this stakeholder in the middle of the process? Is there a difficulty in a system because there is a specific system, or it is because there is a cost criteria, or how is it? Richard?
Umesh said, there are multiple stages in the decision-making process before a project can go into execution. The first aspect is to actually bring in the culture of having and preparing a design brief, which then leads to something called a design basis report. Now, there are design basis reports for structural and for MEP, but there still is no architectural design basis report. And I might be shooting myself in the foot or the head, but we started this practice and we took up the challenge because we wanted to also define what are the criteria and what Ganesh just said, performance class. So we
Ruchir, we are breaking up.
technology and stuff like that. So it's important for us to be honest ourselves and know fully well what our limitations were. And we realized that there was a big gap first for process consultants to define and outline something which we called functional design. So every facility has to have a process consultant who's an expert in that area or field, and they outline exactly what should be the processes and
I think you have a signal issue.
Maybe Ruchir, you stop the video, just keep audio on.
initial budgeting exercise.
Ruchir, we missed the last couple of sentences.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So can you hear me now?
There are breaks in between, but you can keep the video closed. So I believe the bandwidth will help only in the audio.
Okay. So what we realized was that we needed to bring something called functional design back into the fold. And we in the process identified that the process consultants should outline exactly what the performance criteria should be for specific areas of or aspects of the design, and the operational philosophy is outlined by the process consultants to suit the needs of the investor or the client, so that he gets a fair idea of his return on investment, where he realizes what his initial budgeting exercise was not accurate, and it needs to be quantified in a far more detailed manner. The moment the process consultant identifies key critical areas of, and we then started doing something called need based design. In that came, you start identifying gaps where you suddenly realize that a standard structural consultant cannot design the factory floor or a warehouse floor. So then you need to go to a specialist. And that's when we started looking jointly with the client for a specialist in that area, either as a consultant or even as a design build. Because as an EPC contractor, they are the people who really know, through their engineering practices and having delivered multiple projects, they know exactly how to bring the right efficiencies and give you the best solutions. So we got those people on board, and that's the whole process, and till date, whenever I meet a client, and in fact this whole new jargon which has cropped up, which is all investor backed, is to get some kind of a classification and segregation from standard warehousing. So they keep saying, mentioning grade A or grade A plus, whereas there's no definition to any of this classification. So what we do is we start, whenever we are talking to a client, we start with debunking all the the jargon which is in the industry, and tell them very categorically what is the real scenario and what is the way forward for them. And we keep insisting that they need to get specialists on board who understand their the processes of their industry, their manufacturing, everything way better. They will also pay an attention to what is the specific need of the Indian market. The business plan purely model on Western facilities. Those Western facilities exist in a very mature Western market. So that's the gap where most Indian clients believe that an international solution is not really valid in the Indian context. And we tell them, yes, that is true, but that doesn't mean that you will follow an Indian solution to a requirement which is untested and non-certified. So you start with the entire process and then see how you have to modify the process of design and execution, which is very well established in the developed world, to your Indian scenario and Indian market needs. And that once that happens, then you have a overall success story. Otherwise, what happens is clients keep complaining. Even if you do a very good floor, they say, yes, the flooring is great, but at the cost at which I've built the facility, I have no takers. So that becomes another issue.
Okay. Taking this line of thought, when a designer uses all the specialists in their whole process of establishing design, total design, project design, many a times we also come across situations where all the items or scope of work gets elaborately defined as a step as to what needs to be done, and it needs to be guaranteed. But the specifications or the detailing at times or many a times is not in line with the correct system. And who takes the onus for this? I mean, is it the right way of going ahead, Rajesh? Because you also, as a epoxy or surface treatment systems, you also come across a lot of those kind of requirements where it is all spelled out, but that spelled out is not in sync with the requirement.
That's right. You're absolutely right. We have seen that here the project managers plays very important role, and the applicators, because the systems are specified more or less. Then we also check whether the systems are for intended use. But as far as the applications are concerned, what is happening in India? I think applicators are need to be trained. There are good applicators, and of course, there are companies putting a lot of efforts to train the applicators and see that they use the best demonstrated practices and see that the best floor has been executed. But I feel that to have a better this thing customer satisfaction, we need to have the better training for the applicators. Like for example, warehousing. If you see in warehousing, generally they're using a flow hardness. The flow hardness has got different specification. Like for example, light, medium, and heavy movement. So based on the movements, they spread the flow hardener and then they basically do a traveling. But the proper knowledge, if it get assimilated down the line, and the applicator or executor who do the right job, then I'm sure things can happen in a better fashion. And as Mr. Ruchi said, the ideas and concepts which are there in his mind, which can be executed down the line. And as Ganesh said, definitely yes, there has to be one single body who really can ensure that whatever has been planned, whether the same thing is getting executed, and always there is an issue from the actual side, the execution problems, whether they have been taken care and whether the project team is supporting to really get issues addressed and execute the floor at required level.
Okay, so it is how do you what would you recommend as a process, that process change should be initiated so as to have a qualitative change in the end result?
First thing I would say, yeah, first thing I would say here, as I said, if you see other industries for the floor, like for example, tiling, if you see in India, the specialized adhesives, premium adhesives, if you see this market, earlier there was no code, but now there is a IS code available for that. The same way I would say that for flooring, there should be a code, or at least there should be set guidelines so that the people can follow that and for various requirements. So that will set the tone so that the final end customer will get his intended use and he can use the right flooring systems. And the training of the applicators also plays very important role. That also so that we as a basically body into the body will have to really push these things to make sure that these things are introduced into the markets.
Sudarshan ji, what would be your suggestion as per your experience in international market and the practices being followed? Because they definitely have a very good floors on a life cycle cost, and very few floors are in repair. If you walk into any industry in India, you can very fairly say 90% of them have a floor issue, out of which 50 to 60% are in actually distress or
Right.
not have been designed and executed as it should have been. So, what would you like to suggest from your experience here?
You see, what I would say that the stakeholders, like Ganesh said, they are not meeting here in the beginning. They only meet when there is a problem and things are out of control. So coordination between the stakeholders is very important in order to improve the quality of the final product. So in that, the end user, if he doesn't take interest, but the architects, consultants, the executioner, and the flooring contractor, they have to come together and solve this problem. So more interaction is important, which is not much. It is there in few cases, but I think there is need for that to accelerate. That will go a long way in improving the whole process and understanding with everybody.
Ganesh, in your slide, sorry, yeah, Rajesh.
One more point. Here, what is happening? Flooring is the last activity where everybody wants to finish. The ceiling guy want to finish his job, then other people executing the people who are putting the machinery. So everybody is in hurry and to meet the timelines. And flooring really doesn't get the right time and right process for at least its curing or basically for execution. So that factor also has to be taken care, and we have to make sure that the timelines are properly set by the so that the right execution of the product and the floor is properly given to the customer.
Rajesh, what from my experiences, most of the time the end user is not aware of the detailing. So his detailing
Correct.
keeps on coming at real time, and
Yeah.
those changes keep on coming, which have put a lot of breaks during the operation. So if you have mobilized for a work of, let's say, 20,000 square meter, which you can easily complete in a month's time very comfortably, that gets extended as late as 3 months or even 6 months,
That should be
because
right.
the details are not there, or there is a lag between the planning. The planning is something which is
It's very
completely
important.
missing from the equation. The planning as a composite, whether it is a client and all the stakeholders. So the combined planning is never there. Everybody is having a plan, and those plans are not in sync, and all the requirements of the execution are not there in the plan. So Ganesh, when we talked about all of the chain in the presentation, what I could see is that the specification or designing part came before the GC, but after that you have continued that with the GC. Do you believe that the execution or the qualities can be better achieved through this format, or if the order is split from the GC to from and the flooring contractor, because in that case he has a full autonomy to execute.
Yeah, 100% it will improve by simple principle. It has to be a 1 point responsibility. So when you are appointing GC and a flooring guy is below GC, you are again making it twice responsibility. So if it goes directly to a flooring guy as a design and build responsibility, the value given to customer will substantially increase, and the quality of the floor will also increase. No discussion in that. It has to be a design build contract directly given to flooring contractors.
Ruchir, what do you think is the hitch in the contract? I mean, in working out such kind of BOQs and splitting it out from your perspective, from the architectural and consultant perspective. What are the limitations in doing this?
So the primarily people initially, right at the beginning, to develop documentation, which actually is not worthwhile. I think I should stop
Yeah,
my
Yeah,
video.
you do that.
yeah.
So
Yeah. So what happens is because of lack of clarity and because of on criticalities. People, what they do is they just identify the entire project in terms of certain aspects which are critical and certain aspects which are not so critical. And flooring, unfortunately, comes under the not so critical. The first
Really?
part which we've done so far, and when we start conversations now, currently with any client, prospective client, we tell them, listen, there are two very important aspects to your facility. One, the roof, the second, the floor. Everything else falls in between. And they keep arguing, and we have weeks of arguments and education which goes on. And I insist on something called a collaborative design process. So I tell them, see, you require a process consultant. I'm not going to take your operations manager's requirements as my design brief, because later on you will make changes. If that person gets replaced with some new person, it'll be an entirely new set of requirements that we'll get. It's not going to work. Have an expert who has worked across industries and across fields, who knows what is absolutely required, and then we'll give you a general basis. After that, you can bring in specificity based on whoever is providing you your machinery, your MHE, and your other services, so specialized services, and their requirements will become our design requirements, because ultimately you have to cater to the operational needs of all the equipment that you're investing in order to have a smooth operation and to have quality production. So if you want to maintain certain quality standards, certain efficiency standards, you need to have people who are experts and who are process consultants specific to your manufacturing sector, get them on board, and at least let them vet your design requirements. Once they're approved, we don't mind doing the technical and engineering design. Prior to that, we do not want to start, because if we have to rework everything, we will bill you for a change order. So once they know that the process, we are very clear, we've explained to them that their understanding is very sketchy. It is a little difficult for them to swallow and digest, but they do. And whoever does, we move forward. Whoever doesn't, we actually back out of those projects, because we know it's just going to be painful down the line.
I'll ask a sensitive question. Is it the difficulty in acceptance from the end user end, or it is usually the designer who is not open to working on this format?
So there are both. If I may just add to this, there are both. It's like architects and designers, be it structural or just architectural. They need to get out of their ego frameworks. And once you put your ego aside, you realize and you be honest with yourself as to exactly what is your role and responsibility, and what is your capability in lieu of that. There is no harm in admitting that you're not an expert at, let's say, packaging film manufacturing unit. So while you can design anything under the sun, I always maintain that a good architect can design anything under the sun, but due process has to still be followed. And a big part of that due process is to have experts involved who guide you into the whole thing and tell you exactly what is the end goal. If you don't have your goal post, where the hell are you kicking the ball?
Ajay, I have 2 points. Yeah. See, if every architect and every structural engineer in India follows what Ruchir is saying, or he is having a mindset such as Ruchir, yeah, we will substantially increase the quality of the floors being casted in India. Yeah, that will reduce a bit of a business for repair companies. But what will happen is, we will also reduce the cost of floor what today investor is paying. Today, investor is paying almost 15 to 20% more than he should pay for that value, because of this process. So I really appreciate what Ruchir is saying here. It will change the industry. Yeah, these are the kind of people we need in the decision making sector if we really want to change the industry.
So one of the sectors which is now getting very big and has the maximum floor space, which is the warehousing industry. Okay, now
A grade FM2 warehousing.
Okay, so there are a lot of jargons being used again in the specifications. One particular such jargon is FM2, which is basically a floor flatness class for a specific racking height and specific type of MHE. But there are questions as in, does your floor can take load? FM2 floor can take load. So you come across such kind of questions which are very naive, because FM2 has become a commodity. The use of that word has become a commodity. And the current specifications that we come across in a lot of logistic space, is it something what you would call fair specification, or it is pedestrian at best?
Whom you ask?
You were there, so I asked you first. Ganesh?
Then you have to repeat the question. I missed the last sentence.
Pedestrian for the specification that is currently floating around, whether it is the A grade or the other grade warehouses. Do you think it is a proper specification or very pedestrian specification?
It is not a proper specification. You read this specification, they run into pages and pages. Yeah, somebody is just collating the data from various standards and putting into the specifications. Like if you look at concrete specification runs into 4 or 5 lines. No, not even 5 lines, 7 lines. Concrete needs only 3 parameters. So it is just specification collected by reading different documents and just putting it into one. This is definitely not a right document. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
the other thing here, Ajay, is that most people don't realize FM2 is not a design. I mean, it's a design criteria. It's not really a specification. The concrete, which is going to be catering to that FM2 criteria, has got processes, which is the laying process and the execution, tolerances and all that. And there are so many things which people miss out, which is long term curling of the floor, settlement.
Serviceability.
Yeah, and all those aspects are totally missed out. So there are so many things which people don't realize. They think that, oh, we once we say FM2, it kind of covers everything else, and that's ignorance as is bliss kind of a attitude. So what we do is whenever we see a client, we come across a client's project manager who throws a document in front of us and says, no, we want grade A or A plus even warehousing with these kind of things. So I first tell him, please write down what do you mean by grade A, because I haven't got any such document in my hand, and there is nowhere that I could find this information till. So please tell me what you mean by grade A or grade A plus, and then we will put that into our design requirements sheet. And based on that, we will give you an architectural design basis report, because that will establish this is what you asked us to do. And if there is a change subsequently after that, I'm going to bill you for it. So he then takes a back step. And immediately after that, I tell him, what do you mean by FM2? FM2 only talks about flatness. Where is the concrete spec? So, and then I then inform them that, see, there are specialized agencies, there are specialized codes. Why don't you hire those people, get them on board? You still haven't lost too much of time. Your budget has no basis really, because this figure that you've got in your mind and you're getting fixated on it is actually got no real basis. It is not backed by engineering. It is backed by estimation quantities and estimation professional, and that is not realistic. And you cannot tomorrow tell a contractor that you did not cater and adhere to our budget, when to begin with the budget itself was wrong. So I said, first establish a sanctity to your estimation and to your budgeting by ensuring that everything that you need in your facility has been covered, and what exactly is the detailed spec of your floor, that has to be put in. That has to be put in into this document. So that's how we take it forward. And that's the only way, clients will understand. See, even today, one good thing that has come out of all the badly constructed and poorly finished floors is that people have now started thinking about it. And today people are talking about FM2, and they believe that the FM2 floor is going to give them a grade A classification, even though there is no such classification in existence. So now we need to educate them. This is the right time to educate all the end users and all the investors and clients that, it's very heartening to see that you have realized the importance of the floor. Please go the entire distance. Don't go halfway, because you are misinformed, thinking that these things will cover all your needs and requirements, and that you will in the end get a very brilliant facility which people will line up to take on lease, long lease, and rent and operate. And the most important aspect after this is international insurance. So one thing which we could do is, the moment you are certified by an international agency, which is an authority on the subject, automatically your insurance premiums go down. And the clients, then when they realize that that's where there are financial benefit, and over a 10-year period, that premium becomes a sizable amount, it kind of then eggs them on into looking into and getting into further details of a quality floor, rather than having just loose specifications thrown here and there.
Yes. Just to talk about the warehousing industry, as of now, India stands on almost on the 44th position in the global warehousing and logistics rating. And we are very, very low as compared to the global countries. And when we talk about the facilities, mostly I believe the grades that they're talking about is the kind of facility. While they would be looking at from the 3PL or 5PL perspective, but the infrastructure in this whole scheme of thing is, I believe, very much lagging. So even this FM2 suddenly has caught attention of most of the warehousing companies. Is it the future ready? Future ready, which is the industry 4, which is the use of bots and automation for the movement of goods. Is this ready, Sudarshan ji?
You see, Ajay, I will say we are not ready yet. In my opinion, India will take at least 3 more years because one of the major giants, they have to take the lead, whether it is Amazon, Flipkart, or Reliance. And today, what they're trying to do, they're just trying to grab the market, whatever is available, the way e-commerce is increasing. So we are in the phase 1. Now, when they go to the phase 2, when the market expands further, that is the time when the change will start happening. And I would say that some of these companies, they will bring the best practices which are happening overseas. So we are not ready yet fully, but yes, we are on the right track. I would put it that way.
But if it is, say, 4 years down the line, the facilities that you are creating currently, they will become available for those applications.
You see, yes, that's a very good question. Today, if you look at the Indian investor, their whole game begins with the cost associated with anything. So by that time, the way the Indian market is expanding on e-commerce, 3 years down the line, even at a very moderate rate of 5% economic growth in e-commerce, you see, they would have made enough money and then they are going to change the warehouses what they have built. Today I just saw one ad of Indospace. They are more talking about the green warehousing. Now, how many people understand what is green building in this country? So I think today the major focus is to make money as the business is expanding, take a strong foothold, and then you do the expansions in terms of better technology, automation, and the quality. The quality in India, you see, whatever you see, we go for quality not in the phase 1. We always go in the phase 2 and phase 3 of the process. That's my feeling based on the experience I have seen in the road sector. Today, you see, you look at the Indian roads, they are much better than before what they are today, but still they are bad roads. They are much better than before, but they are still bad roads. But people are happy with the roads what we have today because the average speed has gone up and the commuting time has reduced. So in warehousing also, once we go to stage 2, things will start changing.
So we are seeing is that if the quality of the floor improves, with the current infrastructure of the operations, that kind of MHE is being used, the yield will be much better. Without doing anything but adding to anything, your output will be drastically improved just by making a right floors.
Yes.
Okay, this is a point which I believe the end user will be more happy because it's not a cost addition, but if it is a in the stakeholders right at the start and then bringing about the change and qualitative change system.
It will happen, but change is always difficult for everyone.
That's true.
So it is happening, but at a slow pace. We are not China or we are not Vietnam.
And in this market, the current COVID situation for cold storage also, and cold storage seems to be in a very nascent stage in our industry, in the logistics scenario. So, Rajesh, what do you think is the quality or facility of cold storage, and what will be the gray areas when they are getting into operations for handling of those vaccines and other such,
So there are two things. One is that definitely for vaccines you will need a cold storage, but at the same time, now with this new food security bill also, you will need a lot of better space for storing the food grains, especially which are required the low temperature. The biggest problem is that the warehouse owners, they are not ready for the system. Like yesterday we had on the panel, there is one presentation from the one panelist. He explained the system which is to be used for the flooring into the cold storage, which basically sustain the minus 40 degrees centigrade. At the same time, it can take a thermal shock and you can clean it with the steam and it can go up to 120 degrees centigrade. But cost is very expensive. So this is very important that they should be ready to spend the money for this kind of a system. So that is number one. And number two is that the knowledge. Because here also I've seen that if you just go to the all smaller cities, barring bigger cities, tier two, tier one cities, the smaller cities, they are not having awareness. So this awareness has to go to this all cold storage places where what systems are required from the flooring side, so that end customer get the right solutions.
From all the panels, this term, it's about the cost and the reservation on the cost. Let me ask you by saying that if a structural designer designs a building with a certain column and beam sections and slab sections, does anyone say, can you do a bit of compromise on that?
No, they don't say, they know the building will fall.
I believe then even the floor also is on the same
Important.
lines, important. And if you do a cost cutting, it will fail. It will fail. It will not give the intended purpose. So why do we talk about cost? It is a. I mean, there are costs. When we talk about cost, there can be some high quality items. There can be average level this thing, and you select amongst that. But that is a requirement. If it is a requirement, then it's a necessary cost.
Correct.
Don't you think that?
That's right.
Ajay,
Like, for example, if you say vaccine, if you don't store at minus 53 degrees centigrade from one specific company, that the virus will not be that active. It will be an ineffective vaccine. So those necessities are there, which we need to accept it. And people should be ready to spend that money.
No, but then if we change our language from necessity to spend, it's a cost. If we put it as a higher cost, then everybody takes it as a higher cost. If you put it as a requirement,
Necessity.
it's a necessity.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Ajay, Ruchir made a very good point. He said the end user looks at two aspects, critical and non-critical. Unfortunately, floor is considered non-critical. So that has to change.
Correct.
I believe that's the reason why we are there today on this flooring conclave with all the end users and attendants, is making them realize the importance of this particular aspect of the building infrastructure.
Right.
Is it directly affecting their performance, or it is not directly affecting the performance? I can give you one simple example is we have in conventional design, you always have a VDF floor or Trimix floor, which is still prevalent in a large number. And there is one more term which is used, it's called expansion joint in floors. So this is a term which you have been fighting for more than 2 decades, isn't it? So, but then they are there, expansion joints are there. A reach truck is moving on a floor which has expansion joint with metallic nosing, and this is getting damaged. A wheel costing about 60 or 80,000 on a floor which is just because it has been designed in a certain way, and the cost consideration, the operations has costed them about 20-30 lakhs. Simple, the wheel.
Yeah.
Forget the speed has come down because they are afraid of losing the wheels or the breakdowns of vehicles. If you check out with most of the MHE companies, they are struggling with the performance of MHEs. And the usual complaint is the client is saying your MHE is not good, while the case would be because the floor is not good.
Right. tire cost is very high for the warehouse.
I can add one thing here. There are solutions. There are basically carbon-based precast panels available nowadays. If you use those panels, I'm sure the movement of the images can be very smooth on that. But they're expensive. So basically, again, the cost is a consideration. So,
The issue is same.
yeah.
So, changing, we also talk about when we talk about floors, instead of talking as a cost, we talk about necessities. Be able to bring about qualitative change in this whole scenario.
Sure.
So, am I to summarize in a way that as a contract, the fundamental change has to happen in a way the flooring subject is approached from the design perspective, and even the end user insists on bringing on board all the specialist companies who will be playing a part in this in any project. So depending on the type of project, it may be some MEPs, the flooring companies, and so on and so forth. So you have various specialists on board. The flooring while the project is in conception or in the concept stage, and a broad concept is brought about, and the valuation is done by the architectural firm, and then you get into the specifics and into the further contracts. Can I summarize like this, Ruchir, on the initial stages?
Oh, yes. I think that that's the right way to sum up our discussion. The only thing which I would like to add to that is certification process. What happens is cost comparisons are made between proper properly engineered solution and a ragtag hash job of some local person who doesn't even understand the complexities of what he has to do in order to execute a industrial floor. And he quotes a very low rate, which is absolutely unrealistic. So, to cut out all the riffraff, those people need to be certified to even quote. And B, once whatever they have given as a solution has to be certified or it is not covered under insurance. So when you bring in such control, automatically the power shifts to the body which is which has the technological know-how in order to guide the industry forward rather than making them go through these painful mistakes which they have to either live with because they don't have the money nor the time to disrupt all their operations and then redo the flooring, or spend a whole lot of time, energy and money in refurbishment of their existing facilities. They could have very easily avoided these pitfalls right at the beginning. And the problem is, we don't have white papers. There has to be, like, say, the IFA should have some studies conducted, which are, studies of a kind of shortlisted facilities, and one which has a properly engineered and executed floor. What was its life cycle cost? And what was the life cycle costs of other facilities which didn't have these? So the moment there is actual data backed evidence, it's only then that the clients will actually start listening. Otherwise, they will listen to you, but they won't pay heed to it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, very good point.
Okay, so we need to bring about a reference document and collate all the information that is available with the companies on the basic cost, vis-a-vis the conventional cost and the life cycle cost thereupon. So that is one kind of information that we need to collate. Also, as we can summarize, is that IFA needs to work on a qualitative document so what code practices or a guideline which needs to be followed to be able to get to the right quality of floors. It's not necessary that we create all the new documents afresh. There are a lot of documents which are available with ACI or Indian or European codes, which you can refer to, and the local factors can be brought in into the system, and what are acceptable and what are unacceptable limits, and even the flooring companies, what are the liabilities in case they do not meet, what are the penalties also. These all can be brought in into the contracts, and there can be a format of how the contracts can be shaped. The guidelines can be given from the flooring body. So we, as a flooring body, we should be working on this kind of documents, and a lot required from all the stakeholders, including the end users and the specifiers, to be able to form this kind of documents.
Actually, I would like to add that training is also important for the applicators for the right execution. That training is very important.
Very important.
Yeah. So we should have some kind of trainings, what we've been doing, and there kind of a system where these people are certified, so that the end customer also is satisfied. Ki, okay, the guy who's doing the job, he knows how to do the job.
Yes. So, like Ruchi said, we need to first create a document and which states that the job which was well planned and well engineered, what cost, capital
Well
cost,
executed.
and what is the life cycle cost,
Yeah.
and vis-a-vis the standard practices being adopted, and what is the capital cost and what is the life cycle cost.
Correct.
And then the end user will be able to identify with your contention and makes a tangible shift in this direction.
Correct.
So we can conclude on this lines, or you would like to add here if something?
Conclude.
Yeah, we have covered most of the points.
Over to you, Jane. We've concluded on the program. Jane, Saurabh.
So Jane has another meeting.
Oh, you're fine.
Request you to conclude, giving your regards to all the panelists and the
Yes.
audience.
Yes.
The questions?
Thanks a lot, all the panelists and all the audience for a patient almost 1.5 hours of listening from our talks. And if there are any questions, or we would be more than happy to take it up.
Sure.
Saurabh?
Thank you, sir. There are currently no questions on Hive as well as on the WebEx.
Okay, great.
Thank all the panelists and all the attendees for a patient listening. And we look forward for your active participation in the future programs also. Thank you so much. All.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank you, Jay.
Bye. Thanks, Ajay. Thanks, Ruchir sir. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.